Asia, the world's largest continent, is a tapestry of diverse climates. From the icy peaks of the Himalayas to the scorching deserts of Arabia, it harbours a vast range of ecosystems. This very diversity makes Asia particularly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Rising temperatures, shifting monsoon patterns and rising sea levels pose significant threats to the continent's delicate balance. Nowhere is this more evident than in South Asia, where countries like Pakistan and India face an uncertain future. These densely populated nations are already experiencing the harsh realities of a changing climate. The consequences are far-reaching, impacting everything from agriculture and water resources to human health and social stability. Understanding the specific challenges facing this region is crucial, not just for Asia, but for the entire world. The lessons learned here will be vital in informing global efforts to adapt to and mitigate the impacts of climate change. The future of Asia, and indeed the world, hinges on our ability to address this global challenge with urgency and collaboration. The time to act is now. Pakistan and India, two agricultural powerhouses, are experiencing a steady rise in temperatures. This warming trend is particularly pronounced in the northern regions, including the fertile plains of the Indus and Ganges river basins. Here, temperatures have risen by an average of 0.5 degrees Celsius over the past century. Projections suggest this warming trend will continue, with temperatures potentially increasing by another 3 to 5 degrees Celsius by the end of this century. This warming trend has severe implications for the region's water resources, agriculture and human health. The hotter, drier conditions lead to increased evaporation from reservoirs and rivers. This exacerbates the already existing water stress in many parts of both countries. Indian scientists, moreover, the rising temperatures create ideal conditions for heat waves, which are becoming more frequent and intense, posing significant risks to human health, particularly in urban areas. The consequences of inaction are dire. We must act now to mitigate the impacts of these rising temperatures. High in the Himalayas, a slow-motion disaster is unfolding. The glaciers, often described as the water towers of Asia, are melting at an alarming rate. These glaciers feed the major rivers of Pakistan and India, including the Indus, Ganges and Brahmaputra, upon which hundreds of millions of people depend for their livelihoods. As the glaciers shrink, the flow of water into these rivers is projected to decline in the coming decades, jeopardizing water security for a vast population. This glacial melt poses a double threat. In the short term, it increases the risk of glacial lake outburst floods, or GLOFs. These catastrophic events, triggered by the collapse of unstable glacial lakes, can cause widespread destruction downstream. In the long term, the reduced glacial melt will lead to water scarcity, impacting agriculture, industry and domestic water supply. The melting glaciers are a stark reminder of the far-reaching impacts of climate change. We need urgent action to address this crisis before it's too late. Climate change is increasing the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events in Pakistan and India. These events, including floods, droughts, cyclones and heat waves, are becoming a regular occurrence, causing widespread devastation and loss of life. The devastating floods in Pakistan in 2022, which submerged one-third of the country, are a stark reminder of the destructive power of these events. The coastal regions of both countries are also highly vulnerable to cyclones, which are becoming more powerful due to warming ocean temperatures. Climate activist. These cyclones bring with them storm surges, heavy rainfall and high winds, causing immense damage to infrastructure, agriculture and coastal ecosystems. The human cost of these disasters is immeasurable, with communities displaced, livelihoods destroyed and lives lost. These extreme weather events are a wake-up call. We must take immediate action to adapt to this changing climate and build resilience against future disasters. Section 5. Fields of uncertainty, climate change and agriculture. Agriculture, the backbone of Pakistan and India's economies, is facing unprecedented challenges from climate change. Agriculture, the backbone of Pakistan and India's economies, is facing unprecedented challenges from climate change. Agriculture, the backbone of Pakistan and India's economies, is facing unprecedented challenges from climate change. The changing rainfall patterns, rising temperatures and increased frequency of extreme weather events are disrupting traditional farming practices and threatening food security. Pakistani farmer. The fertile plains of the Indus and Ganges basins, which produce a significant portion of the region's food grains, are particularly vulnerable. The impacts of climate change on agriculture are multifaceted. Rising temperatures and changes in rainfall patterns are shortening growing seasons for some crops, while making others more susceptible to pests and diseases. The increased frequency of droughts and floods leads to crop failures and livestock losses, impacting livelihoods and food security. These challenges are further compounded by limited access to climate-resilient seeds and farming techniques, particularly among smallholder farmers. Pakistani farmer. Adapting to these challenges is crucial for ensuring food security for millions. We need to invest in research, technology and capacity building to support farmers in this transition to climate-resilient agriculture. Section 6. A rising tide of health risks. Climate change acts as a threat multiplier for human health in Pakistan and India. The rising temperatures, extreme weather events and deteriorating air and water quality are exacerbating existing health risks and creating new ones. Heat waves, becoming more frequent and intense, are particularly dangerous, leading to heat stroke, dehydration and respiratory problems. The changing climate is also influencing the spread of vector-borne diseases such as malaria, dengue fever and chikungunya. The warmer temperatures and increased rainfall create ideal breeding grounds for disease-carrying mosquitoes, expanding their range and increasing the risk of outbreaks. Moreover, the deteriorating air quality exacerbated by climate change contributes to respiratory illnesses, cardiovascular diseases and other health problems. Strengthening public health systems and raising awareness about climate-related health risks are crucial for protecting vulnerable populations. We need to prioritize health in our climate change adaptation strategies. Both countries are signatories to the Paris Agreement and have pledged to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. They are investing in renewable energy sources such as solar and wind power to reduce their dependence on fossil fuels. Environmental policy expert. Recognizing the transboundary nature of climate change, both countries are engaging in regional cooperation initiatives. The South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, or SAARC, provides a platform for dialogue and collaboration on the climate change adaptation and mitigation. However, political tensions often hinder progress. Strengthening regional cooperation is essential for addressing the shared challenges of climate change. Building trust and fostering collaboration can unlock significant potential for effective climate action. Climate change is pushing many of Asia's unique ecosystems towards the brink. The region is home to a remarkable diversity of plant and animal life, much of which is found nowhere else on Earth. However, the changing climate is disrupting these delicate ecosystems, threatening biodiversity and the essential services they provide. The Himalayan region, often referred to as the Third Pole, is warming at a rate faster than the global average, leading to the melting of glaciers, changes in precipitation patterns, and shifts in vegetation zones. These changes threaten the survival of iconic species like the snow leopard, red panda, and Himalayan brown bear. Conserving biodiversity and protecting these vital ecosystems is not just an environmental imperative. It is essential for the well-being of millions of people who depend on them for their livelihoods and cultural identity. We must act now to mitigate the impacts of climate change and preserve these natural treasures for future generations. The impacts of climate change extend far beyond the environment, triggering significant economic and social upheavals in Pakistan and India. The agricultural sector, a major employer in both countries, is facing increasing losses due to extreme weather events and changing growing conditions. This leads to job losses, rural-urban migration, and increased pressure on urban infrastructure and services. Bangladeshi fishermen climate change also exacerbates existing social inequalities. Marginalized communities, often dependent on natural resources for their livelihoods, are disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change. Women in particular face greater risks and burdens due to their limited access to resources and decision-making power. Addressing these social and economic inequalities is crucial for building climate resilience. We need to prioritize the needs of the most vulnerable and ensure that climate action is inclusive and equitable. The future of Pakistan and India in the face of climate change depends on our ability to act decisively and collaboratively. We need a two-pronged approach, mitigating further climate change and adapting to its unavoidable impacts. Mitigation involves reducing greenhouse gas emissions through a transition to renewable energy sources, improving energy efficiency and promoting sustainable land use practices. Adaptation focuses on building resilience to the impacts of climate change that are already being felt. This includes investing in climate-resilient infrastructure, developing drought-resistant crops, improving water management systems, and strengthening early warning systems for extreme weather events. The challenges are immense, but so are the opportunities. By embracing innovation, fostering regional cooperation, and prioritizing the needs of the most vulnerable, we can navigate the uncertain future and build a more sustainable and resilient future for all. The time to act is now.